So, this is a different kind of video. Welcome to the start of my documentary type series. So, we are going to be focusing on learning disabilities that me and other people go through. I'm going to be running you through a few different stories throughout this video of the struggles that people like myself and others go through on a daily basis, struggling with their disabilities. Now, I'm going to explain to you in the next clip a little bit about my learning disability and some things that I've struggled with and gone through. So, let's get into that. Say I need to go into basically what are like homes for like people with disabilities and whatnot, and my family was like, fuck that, hell no, that's not gonna happen. And basically, I've had troubles with even finding jobs. People treat you differently. People even in your family treat you differently. You always have this like thing about you that you can't shake, that everybody around you is treating you very differently than they would somebody who doesn't have a learning disability or any kind of disability in that manner. Now, I've had a long road with YouTube, even, YouTube, social media, making friends. Never been easy. Even, finding a partner, finding, being able to do the things that you want to do, you are held back because of that reason. And a lot of times, it's more mental than it is anything. You get in your head a lot of those times, and it gets really tough and it gets really depressing. And I want this to be more of a motivational story than anything. I want it to be something that, people like me can, sit and listen to this story and they can resonate and they can, and I can hope to motivate them and tell them that we are enough. We are going to get through this struggle, this moment in our life where it seems hard, but it's not all bad. So, at the end of the day, the moral of the story is you can try and change the narrative of how people look at you, whether you're in the workforce, whether you're in school, whether it's your family, your friends, but it's almost an impossible winning battle. We as a society, you know, put down marginalized groups, and it's unfair. It is truly unfair. And we are just one of those groups that ends up being put down the most, in my opinion. Now, some would say others, but I would definitely say we are definitely the most disrespected, marginalized group that will, you know, ever exist. So, at the end of the day, I'm fighting for change at the end of the day, and I hope you guys are too. And if you guys have any, you know, disabled friends, please, at the end of the day, lift them up. Show them that you see them as people like anybody else. And just have compassion. Don't treat them like they are different. You know? But that's all I got for you on my story and what I've gone through from a personal standpoint. I'm going to let other people tell you their side, and we're going to go from there, and then we're going to pick up from there. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback on what I think personally on their behalf.
For those of you who don't know, those are learning disabilities, and they make reading and writing extremely difficult. And in my case, talking was difficult. I don't mean just like sitting down and talking with someone that I'm close with, but standing up and talking in front of people, or even on a video like this, used to be, I can't even express how excruciating it was, because I would have to stop and think about what I was saying so that my words wouldn't come out backwards. And I really didn't want to make a fool of myself. So I didn't always know that I was dyslexic or dysgraphic, but I realized that I began having problems in elementary school when I was in first grade, and we were all learning how to read, and we were each given one book, and we'd go into our reading room and we would read it, and then the idea was to go on to the next book. But the problem was I never went on to the next book, at least not for weeks. Our first book was Green Eggs and Ham. And my teacher started getting extremely frustrated with me because, first of all, I was calling it eggs, green, and ham. And I remember her saying to me that, Catherine, just read what's on the page. And I would tell her, I am reading what's on the page. Like, to me, that's what the words looked like. But still, I wasn't that upset about it. I thought, oh, well, I'll go the whole year on this eggs, green, and ham business, but whatever. While every single other person in the class had moved on. But I remember the first time in which I truly felt like humiliated. It's hard to describe. I came into school and sorry, I forgot what I was saying. I came into school and I overheard my teacher talking to my mom, and gosh, I don't like doing this to
people, but like I was friends with a lot of them in first grade. Like I can't remember that much about like my friendships and stuff specifically, but like I had like a good amount of friends. Like I loved all of them. They were all really sweet. And I just had a slight problem. I didn't really know what was going on, and it was just really hard for me to focus. But at the time, my parents already knew that my sister had some learning difficulties, so they sent her to a private school that accommodated for people with learning disabilities. And she was in a smaller class, and she had more attention. And these classes were a branch of the private school she went to, so there were like two types of branches. There was the main part and then the academy. So she was in academy, and then I was at this public school because we still thought I liked it and everything. So I would do a lot of things like tasks and stuff that like any first grader could do easily, but like for me it was a little bit more difficult, and I wouldn't necessarily succeed in anything I really did as a first grader, and that was like a little bit off for me. And like my sister was already tested and everything, and they knew she had some difficulties, so that was taken care of. But for me, like we didn't really know because we thought that like everything was fine until I started having these problems, and it was just like a lot of visual problems. So like I'd be told something or something would be read to me and I wouldn't remember it to like comprehension. So like slowly it developed and it got worse, and my parents decided to get me tested, and that was probably like the best thing they could have done for me. So I did get tested, and it was like a very minor test, but it was just enough to tell that I did have some difficulties because it was still developing, you know. So as the learning disability developed, I went to my sister's school, transferred into her classes, and we started going to school together. And that was like amazing. It was really cool being able to like go to classes with my sister and everything. And my sister and I were very close when we were younger. We still are. And like I always felt like a bond with her that like I couldn't like feel with anyone else. I mean, we're twins, and like it's just amazing knowing that she's going through the same thing as me all the time. So we were in classes together, and then slowly like everyone in my school, like the teachers, administration, thought I could probably get out of those academy classes and start going to the mainstream classes that all other students are in, with the bigger classroom and like more students and everything. So as that happened, we noticed I had like a separation anxiety from my sister. Like it was hard for me to be away from her because I almost felt like I was like looking over her because I feel so close to her. So they started taking me out of my classes like slowly as like a second to third grader and putting me into mainstream.
I went with my family to Yellowstone, and I loved animals. So we'd be driving along and we see this huge moose on the right side of our car, and I'd be like, dude, that is amazing. And I was the only boy out of three sisters, so I felt like, you know, I kind of had to impress them, you know? So I just kind of go all at it, you know? I just like, this 7-year-old Josh climbing up this mountain next to his like, big old dad. You know, my dad was a pretty big guy. And I'd just be exhausted, man. I'd be crying because I was like, what have I done to myself? So even though like me and my family were like really tight, I felt like I was different. You know, we'd have all these awesome vacations. But then I would be at school and, you know, my family wasn't there. It was me and my big old class of 20 students and my teacher. And I felt like I just couldn't focus. You know, the teacher would be speaking, and I couldn't process what she was saying. It would take me longer. And I just felt like I was different from the other kids. But when the teacher would like write something on the board, I'd be like, dang, like I got that, like boom, right away. Like that makes sense to me. But then we would go, and then pretty soon I was like put in like a smaller class. I think it was like a special needs class. But at the time I didn't know that. And it was like me and 3 students, and I just felt weird. You know, I just kind of felt like, man, I don't feel like I'm different, but I feel like people think I'm different. So I'm sitting in the doctor's office, my mom's sitting next to me, and the doctor is looking at me and asking me a bunch of questions that are pretty weird questions. I'm like, what is this about? You know, I feel kind of weird. I have no idea who the heck you are. And they're just like, okay, you're diagnosed with auditory processing disorder. And that was it. You know, and they started telling me like, this is what it is, this is what it's to be expected. And it almost felt like they were kind of telling me like, this is kind of who you are. And I was like, man, I don't feel like that is who I am. I feel like there's way more to me than this disorder. And I felt like I was learning through like books. I felt like, man, I'm getting this. As high school came, like
21 and I want a job.
Hello?
Right?
You ready? What you got there?
My CV.
Yeah. Thinking about the meeting this afternoon?
Yeah. I'm going to farmers to see if I've got a job or not. That will mean like a step for me in the path, like the job path.
So you know this meeting today is about feedback on how you went for your work experience. How do you think it's going to go?
A bit. I'm nervous.
You're nervous?
Because I don't know what to expect if they tell me I didn't get the job.
She's had 5 weeks work experience there, and I'm hoping that it will lead to something, which we will find out this afternoon.
I'm ready to go now, Mum.
I'm really hoping that she's got one, because it gets her into the retail field in a big environment.
I've really tried with handing my CV in and applying online and done everything to get a job.
So what do you think? Are you excited?
Pardon?
Are you excited
Yeah.
about the job?
Nervous.
Yeah.
I feel like my disability is stopping me. I really want something really big and happy to happen to me.
You nervous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did it go, Portia?
Not good.
No, it didn't go well. But at the end of the day, as they explained, it was just work experience, and they were promising nothing. We just probably were hoping that they would see the potential in Portia, and but they didn't. And it wasn't a job, so it was work experience, and that's what we're. It affects me really hard because I know that Portia's got a lot of strengths and a lot of things that she can give employers. I just feel that they need to give her the chance. If you just look at the back. So let's go through the CV, Portia. Employment history. Pages and pages. So in the interview, if they say, why do you want this job? What would you say to that?
Because I think it will be a really cool job to work in.
And if they go, what can you bring to the job? What are your strengths? What would you say to that?
I've had heaps of retail experience.
Mm-hmm.
And
Doing what specifically?
Putting clothes on hangers and sorting out the changing rooms.
Hi, Jess.
Trying to find a job, it's been hard because I've been handing like maybe 100 CVs out and applying online heaps. No one's called me back saying we've got a job.
Fun story. I hope it's enjoyable. I don't really know. This is going to be the story of how I found out I had a learning disability and how I overcame the struggles and the stigma that came along with that. So if you're interested in hearing this story, then just keep on watching. Okay, so I don't know exactly what I'm going to say in this video. In fact, I already filmed it and kind of hated the way that it came out, so I'm starting over, but I just got this idea to film this video today. I was reading through comments on YouTube and I actually saw a comment that really touched my heart. I had kind of mentioned my learning disability in my back to school supplies haul, and somebody had commented that they would really love to hear more about it and just their story. It really inspired me, so I decided it was on my heart to kind of sit down and film this video. I guess I'll give you guys kind of a backstory. Nothing really significant about my childhood that stood out, that I thought I was different. I always knew that I was different than my brother. He is super genius dude. I'm not even kidding. He is so smart. He graduated 3rd in his class. He got a full ride to college. He is now a chemical engineer and he's working towards his master's simultaneously. That word is hard. And I'm so proud of him, but I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely hard growing up in his shadow. Now, I'm not saying I am dumb by any means. I also believe that I too am intelligent, but nowhere near my brother. My brother's just an intellect. He craves knowledge. And for me, I think that I have really good communication skills. I think I'm a strong reader and writer. We're very different, but it was definitely hard growing up living in his shadow. And it is totally not his fault, but as my brother would leave school, I would be entering that school and there'd be this expectation for me to be Matthew's sister. And unfortunately, I could never really live up to that expectation. And that is not his fault, not my fault. It's just the way it is. Siblings are different. We were born differently from the same parents, but just different individuals. Nothing really was different about the way I learned, at least I didn't think so, until I got to high school. I thought the material was pretty easy in 9th grade, you know, geometry, whatever, English, whatever, French class, whatever. But when I got into 10th grade and I had to take chemistry class, that is when I started to notice something wasn't quite right. I worked my butt off in chemistry class. I went in for extra help. I got a tutor that charged $50 an hour. I really wanted to succeed in that class and I loved my teacher. She is the cutest lady alive. She had my brother. She had my brother's fiance. Like, everybody loves this teacher, except I just could not succeed in her class. And I would go in for help and she said, "You're doing really great, you really understand the material, you're gonna be successful on the next test." And then I'd get down to the test and I'd fail.
That a learning disability to me is it's more than just the, you know, being hard to do daily task. It's a lot more mental than it is in a physical sense, if that makes sense. So, like, every day it's a battle of, you know, seeing other people achieve things that you only wish you could achieve, or hoping that one day, you know, it'll get easier and, you know, it'll be less of a struggle. I'm not saying that it'll ever get to that point to where, you know, it'll be less of a struggle. I mean, obviously, you know, that's the goal, to improve and get better through life and whatnot, and get those tasks and accomplishments and whatnot that you want to achieve. Because I will say that I'm very blessed. I was lucky enough to graduate high school looking for more. I'm always looking to better my community, better my accomplishments, better everything that I want to get done in life. And there are a lot of things that, you know, I'm hoping that one day I'll be able to do that other people can, you know, take from this and see that they can do the same thing regardless of whether where they're at, you know, with their disabilities and whatnot. Making it where everybody, no matter what your disability is, can have a voice in this discussion. And also, I know it's, you know, past the first of the month when this will come out. So I want to wish everybody a happy, belated learning disability, whatever it's called, awareness month. I'm sorry, I'm not exactly totally informed on what it's called. I think it's called I think it's called Learning Disability Awareness Month, or just Disability Awareness Month. So that's what we'll go with. And I want to start off by saying that, you know, for those of you that are out there in my boat, or if you're not, more so to the people that aren't. If you happen to see them, don't treat them differently, and don't make it seem like you are trying to micromanage them or handle them with baby gloves, you could say, or because we don't appreciate that. To us, we take that as a slap in the face. What we want is, we want to be treated the same as anybody else in the room. What we can and cannot do, we want it to be the same as the next guy or girl. So whatever the case may be, and I'm sorry for that background noise, that's just my Xbox brick, just in case you guys can hear that. So, just moral of the story is, if you're being a little more nicer to somebody with a disability, don't just be nice to them because of that fact, or extra nice to them because of that fact. Actually show them a little bit more respect and decency than that, because that will go a long way. So I want to thank you guys for watching this documentary. It has been a very much of a honor and pleasure to make this for my community. It's been a long time coming that something like this hits the internet and really shows and really puts in perspective what we go through on a daily basis, whether it's trying to find jobs, whether it's trying to find respect, whether it's trying to find, you know, anybody that actually gives a damn about us, you know, from that perspective. So, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, and make sure you guys comment. I really want to know what your guys' feedback, how you are liking the videos. Make sure you follow on all my platforms. I have Snapchat, I have X, I have Instagram and YouTube. They're all at Horror Films 94. Make sure you go.
Myself, spend a couple days with nobody else, holding in my breath just to see if I can find you in my dreams. Oh, I'm getting tired.